while you were coming, I didn't know all this shit was happening. It's the funny, well, not, it's not funny, but the crazy thing about the media, they try to keep us dumb, bro. They don't want us to know what's really going on. And that's what I wanted to talk about. Like, you were talking about prisons in this state that are people are dying in the prisons and they, during the investigations or whatever, they have to shut it down, and then they come back and they're signed under a new company. Like, it's all about money. It's not even about criminals and crime and shit like that.
No, we are in the business of incarceration. This is modern day slavery. It's an economy. It's not any different than slavery has always been. It's exactly the same thing. They just called it something else.
So last time I know you were talking about how the prisoners were talking, but they were going to start, I guess, boycotting or go on strike, and they weren't going to do any of their jobs. Now the one particular prison we were talking about, what's the name of the prison? Angola, which is known for making everything from clothes to potatoes to everything.
Still picking cotton.
Look, Fifi's, they make it all. One-stop shop.
This motherfucker said Fifi's.
And their idea, well, not idea, but the plan that they actually did was that they were going to boycott these jobs in order. And what were they asking? Remind us all.
So there's a list of 10 demands. Let me see. I think I can pull it up for you. I don't know if you have the page open because I'm live right now.
Which one is this? On your page?
On the Millions for Prisoners New Mexico. Anybody can go on Millions for Prisoners New Mexico on Facebook, and you can see the video of Malik, who's one of the lead organizers of Angola. When we released his video, he's been...
and that's the one we played last time you were here, right?
The last time we were here. Since then, 2 weeks ago, the warden took him into his office and had him call civilians on the outside who were supporting him, like us, and tell us that he is not going to be participating, to call off all the actions. And we already knew he was under duress when he's making these calls from the warden's office, right? The warden effectively threatened his life, threatened to put a snitch jacket on him and put him on the line, which is how that's how wardens deal with inmates that they want to oppress. And so those things are actively happening. Malik had to tell us that, but we got word from others in Angola who told us, no, they need us to continue on.
Yeah.
So that's all happening, and the national strike is in action right now. Angola right now is under a work strike, along with South Carolina. There's 19 states participating. We haven't got word from all behind the walls to see like what level and what the numbers look like. But every time we're getting reports, we're sending that information.
So I just have a question about the work strike, because a lot of people, they think that's an oxymoron. Like, wait a minute, how they're going to strike and they're in prison? How does that work? It's because a lot of people, they don't really understand the prison system. They don't understand. They think somebody goes to prison, they just go eat, sleep, lift weights, and go back to sleep. No. So can you tell us about how the work system is set up and how they're attacking that work system?
So you are mandated to work when you're in prison. It's a mandate. Like, you don't get to say, no, I'm not going to work. And when you say, no, I'm not going to work, then you're subject to disciplinary action.
It's basically part of their sentence. Like, they're saying you have to work in order to, pay back. Or part of your, not only are you...
No, it's not restitution. It's not anything that's implemented by a judge. This is not something that's implemented by the courts. This is something by the prison industrial complex, who has built an economy through corporations behind the walls.
And usually the warden is also a businessman, right? The wardens of these prisons are actually also part of it, correct?
Yes.
It just seems crooked as fuck.
It is. Ain't no seams to it. It really is.
And I guess this goes along with just the whole idea of jails in general. I mean, you got these billion-dollar corporations and billionaires that feed off this. I mean, you got the Trumps and ones like that they're getting paid a lot of money to keep and make sure that the laws and everything that's passed, the legislation that's passed, continues to help the jail system and not affect it in a negative way as far as freeing a lot of people. So to me, it's like...
it's so corrupt and it's so big, right? Like... So one thing that happened in March, I spoke to attorneys who work, I'm not going to name their organization, but they're a national organization who prides themselves on fighting for civil rights. And when I talked to their legal team about the 1,200 men in Hobbs who had major human rights violations, they said, Celinda, like, we can't do anything about this. It won't matter, because although it's cruel, it doesn't meet the standard because the Supreme Court has given lots of leeway to wardens to do whatever they have to do to control inmates. So although it's cruel, it's not unusual. So it does not meet the standard. So this is usual that we would violate people's human rights on a mass scale.
So speaking of Hobbs, let's talk about what's going on in Hobbs right now.
So Hobbs right now is still on a lockdown. Inmates in level 4, I just sent you a document that inmates in level housing unit 4 were given, where basically they're using showers and food as a means of punishment. They've taken all phone privileges away from them, so they have no communication with the outside world.
What do you mean? So they're saying basically they're not allowing them to take showers or eat.
Right.
Wow.
And they're putting them on this disciplinary plan, even though none of them have received a write-up. Nobody has received due process. Nobody has been taken to a grievance. They've been able to have a grievance. Nobody is like it's not following the procedure. So it's a mass punishment of an entire housing unit where they're saying, "Oh, we think that somebody in here is still acting up, so all of you are going to be subjected to these conditions." And it's kind of ironic because the weeks that they have identified in this lockdown document that I sent you coincide with the strike.
Oh, so it's basically...
So we always felt like here in New Mexico, like New Mexico inmates were being penalized for the strike, even though we didn't organize any inmates in New Mexico.
Yeah.
On Monday the 20th, all of New Mexico's penitentiaries went into lockdown arbitrarily. And so
the lockdown is they're not let out at all, right?
It's like solitary confinement to your cell with your cellie. So imagine being locked in a cell with another man. You have to shit in front of. You got to wash up in bird bath in front of the sink in front. Like everything is happening just in this little unit, and that will drive people crazy. Yeah. So what it does is it agitates the conditions.
Wow.
And so what you're doing is you're fucking with people's humanity when you're doing that.
Yeah.
And you're creating an unsustainable condition that makes people violent.
It's kind of like grooming a pit bull, bro. They're not, people think pit bulls are violent just because they're pits. It's how they're treated. Yeah. And this is what's happening. They got this weekly fucking schedule going on.
I'm reading this. It's the LCCF Housing for Lockdown Schedule. This was a notice given to all the people, all the men in jail.
Right.
He said, you remain on lockdown status because of disruptive behavior or security reasons. This status has been imposed and will continue to be imposed until such a time as the disruptive behavior is eliminated. To ensure that you understand the conditions and process of your return to normal activities, the progressive release schedule is explained below. Although some participants have been identified, all have yet to be identified. Those who have been identified will have the accrual of good time suspended during this lockdown. All others will continue to accumulate good time. If your behavior is acceptable, you will progress from week to week while gradually earning privileges back. Behaviors which will prevent progression to the next week are as follows: cursing, arguing with staff, or failing to follow staff orders, throwing foods, trash onto the runs. I'm guessing that's the outside the cells. Flooding the cells or the runs again outside the cells. Failure to return trays immediately following the meal. Any trays found in cells when meals are fed in the day area. Covering windows and lights. Now these are all things that naturally they do during a protest or during, while they're refusing.
Exactly, but when you create conditions that make you feel like you need to riot, and then you're saying we're going to threaten you already, and punish you before you have even rioted, and then create conditions that are going to make you feel even more the urge.
Yeah.
So it's perpetual, right? So it's like inflicting violence and continuing the cycle of violence, because prison is violence.
They're antagonizing these fellas. That's what
they're
doing.
creating violent
I'm reading.
environments.
This is what they get for week 1 if they're doing everything they're supposed to do. Now, I didn't know this. I thought these were like rights. I didn't know these were options or necessities. You will receive shower/necessities 3 times weekly. Now, this is only for the inmates that actually behave. This is what they're saying
Which
for
is a
1 week.
violation of policy because they're supposed to get that anyway.
This was August 20th through the 27th. If they behave, they were going to receive showers and necessities 3 times weekly. Showers will not exceed 10 minutes in length. Showers will begin immediately following shift change. You may bring any trash from your cell and throw it in the day room trash can at this time. You receive 1 sack meal and 2 hot meals. Right there and there. So that's 3 meals, in 1 day. But this is if you actually following.
But also the other thing that they're not saying is that the food that comes on those trays is labeled not for human consumption when it enters that kitchen.
Right.
So what actually they're doing is they're starving the inmates because most of the inmates can't eat that food. They know that they will get sick.
How's that possible?
So what happens is the inmates rely on commissary so that they can eat real food that is like normal food for humans. And so they ban them from having access to food.
When you're a private company, you can do what the hell you want to do. And that's what these prisons are. Private sectors. That's why they're able to do this. It's not, it's fucked up. And I believe that's the whole part of the program here, because us on the outside, we're like, what the fuck? Or even the men on the inside, but they don't really understand. It's like being at a job you can't quit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Your job tell you when to be there, what to wear, what you can do, here's the rules. But us on the free, we're like, we ain't fucking with, we're leaving. When you're in prison, it's just that they're basically making these guys do this, and it's messed up because it's like a ladder step, because you got to do all that shit for 1 week to get to the second week.
Right.
And then the second week you get this other bullshit, and then the third week, that's crazy.
To me, what is foul about this is, okay, no question, they did some crime, all right? So, of course, they got to pay the time, whatever case may be for your crime. But now it's like they're getting punishment on top of punishment. Like you said earlier, this isn't even their sentence. It's like you've already been sentenced to your 5, 10 years, whatever, in jail for your crime, or it might be 25, might be life, whatever, for your crime. On top of that, they're saying, while you're here, we're going to make you do some other shit.
This is, it's, to me, it's like a cycle. Prison was supposed to be about rehabilitation.
Yeah. That shit went out the window a long time ago.
It was never about rehabilitation. It's always been
they try to pop it off to us about that. Like
it's legal slavery. I mean, if you ever watched the Netflix documentary 13, I mean, it's literally just legal slavery. When slavery was abolished, they had to find a way to still get free labor or cheap labor.
That economy.
And so the answer was,
we're fucking built on that. The country was built on slave labor, so they're not just gonna be. That's why we had a fucking war about the shit.
It trips me out, and this is kind of because this isn't necessarily in America, but in the world period. They just, it was just legalized in India that they can have gay sex. Not gay marriage. Gay sex was just legalized. Now, I'm not gay. I don't necessarily care personally. But I thought about it like, hold on. So if they was, and then when they say gay, sodomy was legalized as of today in India. Prior to today, if you fucked somebody in the ass, you was going to jail for a hard time. Even if the person you did it to enjoyed it. And I'm like, that it's like, to me, they made some of these laws just to find reasons so they can say, oh no, okay, that's the reason to put them up.
You know that last year in our state legislature, there were over 200 bills introduced for new crimes in New Mexico.
Sagging was one of them, our real true story.
In New Mexico, over 200 bills that communities had to go to the state legislature to try to defeat, to stop criminalizing our people.
They literally try to make sagging against the law. They want to literally make it so they can arrest kids.
They tried to bring back another curfew on young people again. That
curfew.
Would criminalize them.
And to me, it's like when I first came out, my biggest thing I said, especially after I remember I wasn't even living here yet, but I was coming back and forth for business and for the shows we're doing. And I remember within my first maybe month of coming back and forth, I remember the Coliseum. That big raid on the Coliseum. I remember the front page looked like girl could have been older than 13. And she's standing up half naked. I mean, barely anything on. But and she was 13. I remember that's what the news article said. But at her feet, you seen all types of drugs and everything. That, of course, when the police raided the club, everybody dropped everything out their pockets, and nobody, And my first thought was, okay, that's sad, no question. But what are you giving them in place of that? What are we giving our kids to do since they can't? You don't want them in the club. You don't want them doing this, but you're not giving them anything else to do. And
the school to prison pipeline is real. It's intentional. Like these conditions that we're experiencing, they're intentional. So the system needs to continue to feed this economy. And how are they doing it? They're preying upon the oppressed. And they're preying upon the vulnerable.
Do you think, I already know your answer to this, but with New Mexico being so low out of the 50 states when it comes to education, does that make our economy, but does that make our population more prone to be locked up?
Well, I mean, the other statistic that nobody talks about is that we're #1 in private prisons out of all of the 50 states. We have about 52% of
What?
our inmates in private institutions in New Mexico.
I know
Other states average 8%. It is big business.
I know what private schools are. I know what private hospitals are. What the fuck is a private prison as opposed to a public one?
Oh, you gotta go on my page. I just posted a private prison auction video that leaked.
Fuck up. Are you serious?
And it is like, it looks like what we saw where they were auctioning slaves on the blocks. Back in the day, this is like a whole building that the institution of slavery that they're auctioning. It's on the Millions for Prisoners page and it's on my page. It came out through Brave New Films. And so private prisons, we have 3 private prison contractors in New Mexico. We have the Geo prisons, we have Core Civic, CCA.
All right, break these down. What's a Geo prison?
Geo Group, right now, it's $1 billion traded stock on the stock market right now, the Geo Group prisons. And they're the 2nd largest private prison in the United States. We have Geo Group here, and then we have Core Civic or CCA. They're the largest private prison industry in the United States. Both of those companies trade on the stock market at around $25 to $27 a share.
That seems so like against the law. How can you trade on the stock market with human beings?
Yes.
It's literally
this
like
is slavery.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah, this is like the big scale of like what slave selling used to be in the 1800s.
It used to be you could go down to the town square and you're in the middle of town and they bring in the slaves and that's how you do it. Now it's done on a grander scale. That's what it is. They basically took it out of our view and did it way over here with the big wigs.
For billionaires.
Yep.
And then we have Training and Management Corporation, which is a very deceiving private prison company name. It's called Training and Management Services, and that is the 3rd private prison contractor that we have in New Mexico. So we have a mandate in these contracts. They're 20-year-long contracts with these private prisons, so we can't get out of them for 20 years or we have to pay. And they have a 90% bed fill rate. So if the prisons are not maintained at 90% full, us, the taxpayers, have to pay sanctions to these prisons for them not being full.
Damn.
And so it's literally a business here. So everybody who pretty much gets sentenced in New Mexico has to go to a private prison because we've got to keep those beds filled.
Right.
And we just got a re-up this year of new private prison contracts that just flooded our state for immigration detention because of the administration that's in place right now. And if you can go on the stock market watch web pages, and they actually brag about how people should be investing in private prisons because of the Trump administration. So like this is like something that they trumped up, over there in the financial world, saying like this is where you need to be investing. This is going to be big, and sure enough, we just got a whole bunch of new contracts in New Mexico for private prison immigration detention.
And you were talking about the immigrant prisons. That's the film you're talking about, Brave New Films.
It's labeled that, but it's in that film they show the auctioning of a private prison.
I wanna play the trailer.
Yeah, you got it. It's not very long, but it's intense.
Yeah, I'm gonna play this trailer to see. This shit like blows my mind. Like I can't believe this shit is legal.
I could feel myself dying. I couldn't even stay up no more.
The explosive growth of a system of immigrant detention centers that few Americans know anything about.
I spent 9 years, 4 months in immigration detention.
Damn, without no criminal offense or a bond. Damn.
The detention of migrants is a multi-billion-dollar industry.
One in which immigrants are traded like products.
It's hard to see my husband behind glass, but it's even harder to see the pain that it's causing my son.
July 24th, Pastor Carillas was detailed by ICE and now faces deportation.
A wonderful man, a loving father.
I see this case.
I love my family. I love his family. I love my
He's a pastor.
Yeah. This one actually, I seen that actual story.
It's on my
His
page.
story was on CNN. They interviewed him the day he had to go back. Now, what's messed about this
You
is
can
literally,
just film it in.
this is, and I like this
It's on my
movie.
page.
Definitely want to watch more of it, but this was based off. Mind you, we cried about all these kids being held in these immigrant. I call them what's the shit? Concentration camps. That's what I call them. That's what it looks like. And we cried about the kids, but we don't understand that there's a lot of adults in the same places.
That's the auction right here.
State of the art. It's as good as it can possibly get.
They're auctioning the building.
People coming into that pipeline.
They're selling the building.
Did you hear what he just said?
No matter what your business is, what you're looking for, we will have a steady supply of people in America to fill this facility. $5 million, you want to $5 million, $5 million, you want to $5 million, $5 million,
Are you serious?
Start the building at $5 million for the prison, and it said they will provide the bodies to fill the
Yeah,
prison.
we got the pipeline.
He said we have a steady supply.
Ah, bruh. And this is 3 old ass white men doing this auction. God, like we need a hero in this motherfucker. Like, God, we're Black Panther when you need him. Somebody got to come through and say today.
Man, they'll lock his black ass up too, bro.
We're on the job. We're building power right now.
They'll give him that purple drink and take his goddamn power and strip all this shit off.
That's fucked up, but like seriously.
This
like,
will
it's
strip
scary,
you of the
bruh.
power of the Black Panther. You will now be a regular nigga. This motherfucker be locked up right next to Ray Ray, bro. He ain't gonna do shit, bro. Fuck he gonna do?
Take his power and lock that nigga up. Put him in there with the rest of
Lock
them
his
niggas.
ass up and give him a Johnny sack.
Bro, it's sad that literally, and this is, I'll say this, I'm not saying it's right, but this makes me kind of understand the black people that were upset about Obama being in office, because they felt like he could have or should have did so much more. Even though we know he did a lot, period, for Americans, they feel like, damn, we finally had a black man in office. He should have did all this shit.
Well,
what they don't understand is,
but these same niggas that's saying that shit keep calling Bill Clinton the first black president when he's the motherfucker who started this shit. He got the ball rolling. Not even started it. He cemented the shit. He signed off so many fucking bills for this shit to be put in place.
So 3 of the lists on the list of demands of the 10 are Clinton litigation. Or Clinton law.
The irony is
that he did.
He waited till his wife started running for office to try to take it back. Ooh, I was just playing. Let's take that back. Let's change it. And now I suppose they attempted. No question.
But he never intended to change it or stop it, and they still don't. And if Hillary would have won, they would have continued more investment. It would have still continued to grow, and people would have still been asleep at the wheel. So all of that is bullshit. It's not about who's president. It's not about who's in the state legislature. This is about the history of this country that was founded on genocide and slavery, and how this has continued throughout its history. Ever since the white people came here and colonized this country, this is their economy, and it has not changed. And so we're in the same fight that our ancestors were in the 1800s about trying to fight slavery. We're in that same fight now, but we have to wake up. Like, we have to wake up. People have to start calling it what it is. We have to change the narrative about the way we talk about it. And all that bullshit about, oh, he committed a crime, bullshit. That has to end. We have to not be about punishment, because all punishment is like, it is not okay for somebody to use the apparatus of the state to inflict violence upon somebody who hurt me. Because all that does is continue the cycle of violence. Prison is violence. So how can you heal violence and heal communities who have been hurt if you continue the violence?
What can we do right now? How can we be a part of this? How can we help get the word out? What can we do?
So this Saturday at Roosevelt Park, you can show up at Roosevelt Park this Saturday from 4 to 6 p.m. We're going to have a lot of really exciting people going to be there that are just warriors in this movement, who are going to be talking about what's going on, what people can do to take action, And really what we need all of the people who are eligible to vote, who are eligible to run for office, who are eligible to call their congressman. That's who we need, because the people behind the walls don't have a voice. We have to be their voice. We are their power. And so they need us, and they have called upon us to stand in solidarity with them as they're fighting for their lives right now. So everybody should come to Roosevelt Park this Saturday from 4 to 6. Let's have a big ass showing. Let's go ahead and start this movement in action. We will let you know on Saturday how you can take action from leaving that park.
And this is Roosevelt Park in Albuquerque, New Mexico. If y'all in other states, don't go to your nearest Roosevelt Park. You might be a little upset.
If you're in another state, don't even go to Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard.
I'm gonna tell you right now,
you're gonna get killed on that.
If you go to Roosevelt Park in Richmond, California, you might get shot. Don't go to that one.
I'm just gonna go to MLK Boulevard.
I had to think about that. Hold on, make sure they know this out there.
Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Yeah.
There has been solidarity actions for these entire 2 weeks across the nation. If you don't know where your action is happening, go to Millions for Prisoners page. You can go to Justice Ubuntu. There's lots of pages that will tell you where it has ongoing lists of all the actions that are happening.
And we'll put a
across the
link
US.
for Millions for Prisoners on Shut Up and Talk.
Yes, sir.
Facebook.com/Shut Up and Talk official, man, for more information. Real quick, how can they get in touch with you if they want to be a part of it or they just want to know more about it?
Hit me on the Facebook page. Can I just introduce Kelly?
Oh, please, by all means, yeah.
Kelly's here with us. She's being the camera person right now. But Kelly actually did 18 years in the state penitentiary here in New Mexico, and she was the female representative on the Duran Decree. I don't know if people are familiar with the Duran Decree, but that was a massive relief that came to inmates, and she helped to negotiate for the women on the Duran Decree. And Kelly is
like she starred in Orange Is the New Black. Kelly shit over here.
Kelly is a motherfucking warrior.
I see you, girl.
She is. Like, she is so dope.
Hell
And
ain't
this woman is so much an intellectual. She's fucking brilliant, and she has so much to offer.
We gotta have
to
you
the
back on the
people.
show, Kelly. I know we only have one segment today, but we gotta have you back where we can just focus.
Yeah, she got to get on this microphone. Man. I want to hear. We got a lot of questions.
Oh yeah.
Just the stories that you live. You know what I mean? We always like to give anybody a voice. So I know people will want to hear your story as well. So that's what we want you back.
Yeah, let's set it up for next week if possible. Let's
All
make it
right.
happen. But in closing, how can they? What websites? Where can they go?
Facebook, Celinda Guerrero, or Millions for Prisoners, New Mexico. Email is onecelinda, ONESELINDA @Yahoo.
How can they find you on Christian Mingle? Oh, sorry. My bad.
Phone is 505-358-0830. Hit me up if you want to be involved in this movement. We need people. We need to build this power.
And you don't have
the
to.
only way. That's our commodity.
I want to say this because a lot of people really don't give a fuck about shit like this until either they're locked up or a family member's locked up.
I guarantee everybody's been touched by incarceration.
I was gonna say that. That's the truth. And then, just like you were saying earlier, they need bodies. You never know when it's you or somebody else. You never fucking know. So
the police are manufacturing crime in our neighborhoods right now. It's intentional. This shit is not an accident, and they are gonna keep coming for us.
Come on now.
You might be next. Get involved.
Celinda, thank you for coming on the show. Kelly, thank you. Even though we didn't get to talk to you much, but like I said, we'll definitely have you back, so we just focus on you. We appreciate you guys. Celinda, we appreciate you bringing and keeping our ear to the street, so to speak, when it comes to these important protests and important matters that affect us, whether we realize it or not, man. Let's take a break.
Yes, sir.
When we come back, more Shut Up and Talking Radius Radio, y'all. Live in the building, man. We got Black Mike and I want to say his name. Luis. I'm about to say that, but I didn't want to say it. Because Luis black, y'all, but that's a Spanish name. Like
when you got a beard, you can't really pronounce it.
It must be like Luis Johnson or some shit.
He might be a Cubano. I'm just
when we come back, y'all, we got the serious shit out the way so we can laugh, man. Let's do what we do. More Shut Up and Talk after this on Radius Radio.
Right on.
Honest to God, I knew he just said Luis, but I was like, I don't want to fuck it up because I've been drinking.